if the gods were just dudes, what was the role of the prayer to them? So good question. This is Chris Vidal. So what he's saying is this, that if these were just people, if these were just flesh and blood people, why would they want prayers? Okay, let me tell you something. These people were so sick and sadistic. When they decided to begin to masquerade as gods, they really started to develop a god complex. You can see it as you're reading the tablets. Like when you first read the tablets, like when they first got here, versus as you're reading as time is going by, right, according to these tablets, how they become more self-righteous and demanding, commanding people to do this and commanding people to do that and bring me my food. The offerings was the food that they would eat. You learn this when you go to Egypt with me. They'll tell you, the pyramid priests will tell you, they would have people bringing offerings. It wasn't to the people that they were thought they were pleasing God, but what they were doing was bringing these people food to eat because they're not going to go hunting, man. They're not going to go hunting and go, go crops in a field. You bring it to them. And that became a ritual, which still goes on to this day. All right. You bring your first fresh meat. You bring your first harvest. That was their food. And so these people were just purely masquerading as gods. The prayers, in some cases, served a couple of purposes. One purpose, like, for example, the Lord's Prayer, which was Ptah's prayer, who was Enki's prayer. You know, the Lord's Prayer, that's not from any spiritual person in the Bible. The Lord's Prayer comes from Ptah. This is pre-dynastic Egypt. That's Enki. And the prayer is, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Forgive us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. But lead us not into temptation. You know, that prayer, well, that prayer is an ancient prayer. And the reason why they had these prayers was for one reason. One reason was to get the people to look up to them and praise them and give thanks to them, so that they felt like if I give you a day off, or if I give you a little bit of leniency over here, or if I tell you, give you these shekels, you feel like you're getting something from the gods. You feel so happy and so blessed and pleased that the gods smiled upon you. It was more of a control thing. And in some cases, it was just more of such an ego thing. It was almost like, energy vampire, like Marduk was an energy vampire. He got so crazy. He wanted nobody to worship Enki and Lil. He didn't want anybody worshiping Thoth. He didn't want all these other gods, quote unquote gods that were out here, which was his cousins and relatives. He said, there'll be no other God but me, because I'm a jealous God. That actually made it into the Bible. So these people became completely self-righteous, but here's where they screwed up. In the text, they say the creator of all we have to reckon with the creator of all for what we did here. We're going to have to reckon with the creator of all for what we did here. So they knew there was a creator of all. They didn't say God. They called it a creator of all. So they knew they weren't it, even though they were pretending to be it in some cases. So pretty interesting stuff. Crazy, crazy, crazy stuff. Well, what I think is that in order to get to a level that they had achieved, you have to become extremely conscious. So all civilizations, according to the yugas, have a rise and a fall. So at some point, their civilization had risen into a golden age. They got to a golden age, and then some of them broke away and had a breakaway civilization where they were strip mining probably asteroids and planets for resources for whatever reason they was doing it for. But we ourselves are looking to strip mine meteors right now, and we'd love to strip mine other planets as well, including our own moon for helium-3. So if we would do it, why wouldn't they do it? We're not even close to them. So they had the breakaway. Now, during the breakaway civilization stage, again, they have no oversight. So all these other thoughts start to come in, and you start to get this God type of a conscious. So you think you're a God for real, and you're ruling over people, and you're making decisions with no oversight, and you're breaking every fundamental law that your civilization has already put in place, and there's nobody to stop you. So now here comes the decline of that consciousness, but the technology already exists. So that's why you see them getting to this state. That's exactly what I feel happened. And that's how, because at first I was like, man, these Anunnaki are such warring, aggressive people. How can they even get to this level? But then I realized cycles of civilizations. And I believe that that's a universal type of a law where civilizations rise and fall all over. And when I read the Emerald Tablets, Thoth talks about going to other planets and watching civilizations rise and fall. And I said, that's it. That's the answer.
Yeah.
Well, you see, they had the Elohim, which is plural for gods.
Yeah.
And these Elohim, or these Anunnaki, whatever you want to call them, they all were not even close to being the creator of the universe, but they themselves had somebody they called the creator of all.
Yeah.
So they believed in a one God at some point, but they masqueraded as gods, and Amun-Ra, who took over kingship of ancient Kim or Egypt in the age of Pisces, which is why a lot of Christians have that fish on the back of their car. They don't realize that it's really from the Amun-Ra kingship. But he ordered that there only be one God and to be him. He got tired of going back and forth and sharing the honor, or you want to call it, with his cousins and his nephews and everybody else who were already ruling different areas around the planet. And he's the one who decreed that at the end of every prayer, you give thanks to me, Amun-Ra. So that's where the amen comes from. When you say amen, you're giving thanks to one of the most brutal rulers of all time.
Wow.
He took over power via war early, because the age of Pisces hadn't even arrived yet. So he kind of bullied his way in. They finally let him have it. And then this guy just told evil. So he actually told Akhenaten, he's the sun disk for Akhenaten, that I want to usher in this monotheistic type of a society, to go around and deface all the gods except me. So this is where Akhenaten began to become infamous by going around defacing all of the other gods, erasing hieroglyphs, like literally chipping them out and erasing their actual history, which pissed everybody off, which is why they wanted to get rid of this guy. But it was to usher in monotheism. A lot of people believe that, unfortunately, a lot of African American people believe that these faces and these noses were all chipped off because Europeans didn't want everybody to know that some of these people were black, but that's not the case. When you really dig into the history, you discover that Amun-Ra is the one who ordered these faces to be chipped and defaced and noses broken and everything else. In other words, to take away their power that they had over people by the way they physically looked in these glyphs. That, in other words, if the god can be wiped away on a slab of granite, you only have to look to the one that's left, and that was the sun disk, or the sun god Amun-Ra.
And how are we going to get those in charge to allow at least for this information to come out, or are they going to just lose power and it's going to come out that way?
Well, nothing lasts forever. So all kingdoms rise and fall. Right now, we're living directly in the new Rome, which is America, and this kingdom itself will fall at some point. And all it takes is for a critical mass amount of conscious people on this planet to get to a point where 30, 40 million people can wake up one day and go, we're going to say no. No to everything. We're going to say no to paying our mortgage payment. We're going to say no to keeping our money in your banks. We're going to say no to buying gas. We're going to say no to everything. We're not going to show up for work. And when 20 to 30 million, maybe 40 million people do that all in the same day, the entire system will collapse and be reorganized. We have to get to that point. I think we're a little ways off from being at that point. It won't be a revolution of a war where people are fighting against military and so forth. It's going to be a revolution of consciousness where people literally do one thing, just say no. And when people come together in the millions and say no all at the same exact time, this planet is going to change for the better, and then we'll begin to see a lot of things move, positive changes for the human race itself. Ryan D. Billy, why are the Anunnaki so prevalent in the ancient past, but now nowhere to be seen in the present day? Well, kind of covered that a little bit. They had a big war, and during that war, a lot of them left. This planet became an abandoned seed colony. That's what this Earth became. It was a seed colony before the Anunnaki got here that had risen to its own high level of technological advancement, and then something happened, most likely a geological disaster, and that collapsed us. And then the Anunnaki came here, which are the Atlantean people, and they took advantage of our down or fallen state. We were back into caveman stages, and then not that we were cavemen, but we were living off the land. We weren't technological at the time that they arrived. They took advantage of that. They took advantage of our ignorance, and they masqueraded as gods. So now in modern times, I mean, to us, they've been gone for a long time, but in reality, it's only been not that much time at all, less than a blink of an eye on geological timescales. And so the fact that these beings are still out there, probably still coming by, probably still watching and checking up on us, the ones who decided to stop by and take a look. Oh, look, we used to run this place. Now look at this. Look how they got it going now, And so it's pretty interesting. The Black Knight satellite could be transmitting updates to them on a consistent basis, telling them how far we've advanced and if we're taking weapons into space. Maybe that's a big concern for them. Maybe if we get to the point where we begin to take weapons into space, then they'll show up and we'll have somebody to contend with. But we'll see. The Johnny 374, did the Anunnaki use industrial hemp? I don't know if it doesn't specifically say hemp, but it does show that they had access to marijuana, and they used to utilize they used to extract the oil from the marijuana. They didn't smoke it. They extracted the oil from it, the THC and the CBD, and they would mix it with monatomic gold and colloidal silver to make something called the elixir of life. And they would give it to the heroes of old, or they called them the savants. It would be for healing them, for healing wounds and organs and injuries, and keeping their mind clear and functioning properly, and all that kind of good stuff. So Guadalupe, when is the planet Nibiru passing through? So the planet Nibiru is so far away, and its orbit is so far away as it orbits its brown dwarf. It's not going to really have any effect on us other than a gravitational wave. That gravitational wave is going to create warming of ice caps and cores, and because it creates friction, and which could cause some slippage on some tectonic plates. Could see some extra earthquakes on its closest approach, but it won't collide with us. It won't collide with the planets in our solar system. It's not going to create a global disaster. It's not going to end life on the planet Earth, by the way. So just to let you know. Don Solo, Billy, what do you think of Enki, aka King Yahweh? Is he back? So Enki is actually not Yahweh. Enlil is actually Yahweh. So there's been a little misconfusion there with who is which. So when you go into the tablets, you discover that Enlil is actually Yahweh, and Enlil was the one that was treating people harshly and evil. And then when he almost got kind of caught doing it, he started blaming the evil acts that he was doing to people, to humans, on his brother Enki. And then he started to call his brother a serpent and a snake and Satan, the devil, and everything else, because people started calling Yahweh Satan, the Lord of Eden, because he was the Lord of Eden. And he was like, no, he's the evil one, him. So he was like, he sort of tried to put the blame on his brother. Cold World, is Enki or Enlil Marduk's father? Enki is Marduk's father. So Enki is responsible for Amun-Ra. So if you say Amen at the end of your prayer, you got to thank Enki's his offspring for that one. Okay.